Hello and welcome to 10,000 Stitches Podcast, episode 38. This is a weekly podcast all about the joys of sock knitting, and my name is Andy and I like socks. I feel like I didn't quite get that done as smoothly as normal, but it's been a long week and long weekend, y'all, and I am just tired, so we'll go with it. Anyway, this is episode 38. This is going to be a normal length episode, which if you are not here new this week, last week was a very short episode, but we'll get back to normal this week. I mentioned my name is Andy. If you wanted to find me on the interwebs, I can be found on Instagram, Twitter, and Ravelry as Purlbug, Purlbug. In Instagram and Twitter, I'm still kind of not exactly sure what I'm doing with those. I was taking a break, and now my break, at least the time period I set out, was over. But I'm not really sure. I logged back into Instagram today, but I'm not really knowing that I'm feeling it. So who knows? But you can definitely find me on Ravelry as Purlbug. And then my blog is at thepurlbug.com. And then we have the 10,000 Stitches podcast group on Ravelry. I'm currently recording on Monday, September 5th. Happy Labor Day to any of my fellow Americans. I don't have to work today, so that's why I'm recording on a Monday, because we all know how much I really love recording on Mondays, but I don't have to work today, so it's a much more leisurely sort of pace for the day, although it's still been busy, and I'll talk a little bit about that later. But yeah, I'm recording on the 5th, and this will go live on September 6th. So, the stuff we'll cover today will kind of be the usual stuff. We'll talk about finished objects, works in progress, what's coming up next, yarn that I've dyed since the last time I talked to you guys. We'll talk about the results of the previous knit along, which I've been really slow about getting dealt with. I haven't drawn the winner yet, so I will be doing that as I record today. We'll talk about the current knit along that is currently going on and doesn't have any rules up, but by the time you see this it will. We'll talk about some chit chat, and that should wrap us up. I think that will be enough to talk about. So, starting into the knitting, finished objects, I don't have anything. So let's talk about works in progress. Okay, I had to figure out where I put my knitting bag. My space here is just a mess. You can actually see a shopping bag right there because I've been cleaning all day, and that is a shopping bag full of felt that Wesley needs to deal with. But anyway, let's talk about works in progress. So, my current work in progress is the Fireweeds, and this is my first sock for the color work theme, I guess, whatever it is that I want to call that. So, and if you were looking for links to any patterns or any things that I mention, if you're watching this on the blog or on the Ravelry group, everything will be linked right below the video. If you're watching this on YouTube, in the description box below the video will be a link to the blog post for this episode. You can go there and then find all the links below the video. Okay, so this pattern is Fireweeds, and I actually had swatched it before I started knitting, because if you, again, have been here for more than just this week, you know that I have been having the worst time with getting these colorwork socks to be a size that fit. So with this one, I didn't want to get started on it and get too far and then find out that I had made it too small. So I did a swatch of basically half of a chart repeat for the leg, and this was the swatch. So this is just using some, bits and pieces of yarn that I had left over, and this is an 80 stitch swatch, and it worked fine. It's maybe not as snug once it gets up onto the leg as I would like, but it will fit over my heel, and I'm such a tight knitter that this has practically no stretch to it, even though I knit it on US size 1.5s, which are bigger than I normally use, and I knit it inside out, which is kind of, I guess, one of the ways people tell you so that you don't knit too tight when you're doing color work. But whatever. I would rather that it be just a little bit too big than a little bit too small, because if it's too big, I can still wear it as a slipper sock, or I can maybe wear it over a thin pair of tights. But if it's too small, it can't be worn. So I decided to go with 80. 80 seemed like it worked fine, and it would for sure fit. So the way that I modified for 80, and this is a little bit easier just to see on the swatch because there's no needles hanging off of it. But if you're familiar with the pattern, which, it's a free pattern, so if you want to know what I'm talking about, you can just go download it now. But it's the 72 stitch pattern. So this, I kind of have it, this is at the side of the sock right here. And basically the way the pattern is written is it just has a single white stripe down here. So I basically added these 4 stripes. So what that amounted to was 2 extra stitches at the beginning and end of each needle. So just like at the beginning of the needle, I just added a knit 1 in white, knit 1 in green, and then at the end I did a knit 1 in white, knit 1 in green. And that just gives me a couple extra stripes on the edge, but I think it looks fine and it doesn't like interrupt the color work at all. Of course, now that I'm at the heel, I'm struggling a little bit with the fact that I have extra stitches, but I think, you know, the fact that I know how heel flaps usually work, it's not a big deal. So I'm just gonna see how it goes. But this is as far as I got. So I have let's not hit the microphone with my knitting. So I did the cuff, and then this is as far as I went on the legs. So if you've knit these before, or if you're looking at the pattern, you will know this is not the proper length for the leg. It actually should be about double this long. But I normally don't knit the legs on my socks that long, and I tried this on and I realized that if it comes too much further up my leg, it's not going to fit because, again, no stretch. So I decided to cut the leg chart short about halfway through, and then I did the heel flap, just basically the way it was written in the pattern, which is just a standard eye of partridge heel. So I did the heel flap, and then I did the heel turn. And so now I'm at the point where I need to start picking up stitches, and I was working on this last night and I just wasn't really ready to do the like mental like strain that is picking up stitches and dealing with the gussets, so I decided I would just kind of leave that, and I've been too busy today to knit really at all. So that's as far as I am. I'm definitely sensing that these colorwork socks are going to take much longer than normal socks, which I suppose maybe is a duh to anyone who's, you know, done colorwork. And I kind of suspected it would, so like if I get 4 pairs of colorwork socks done during these 2 months, I will be happy, because it just seems to take longer. Like when I sit down and I'm ready to kind of get into it, it just takes longer for me to get, you know, the yarn all arranged properly and get my hands to remember what it is that I'm supposed to be doing. So if you are, you know, like me, and this is your first time knitting any kind of significant color work, just don't get frustrated that it's going to take longer, because it will probably take longer. And I'm hoping that maybe by the end of this 2 months, I will be much faster with color work. But for right now, I'm just kind of accepting that, hey, this is just going to take longer, and that's just how it's going to be. So, so the yarn and stuff, I mentioned I used US size 1.5s, which are a 2.5 millimeter needle. This is my only needle in that size, and it's a Addi Turbo or Addi sock needle or whatever, and I have to magic loop, and I hate magic looping, and this is just reinforcing to me how much I hate magic looping, because it's taking the sort of frustratingness of color work and trying to deal with like where is the yarn all the time, and then adding in magic looping. So I think after this I might get a pair of the ChiaoGus in US 1.5s, but get 2, you know, shorter circulars so I can do it that way, because this is just driving me nuts and I don't like it. I don't like it one bit. But the yarn that I'm using is, this is a 75/25 BFL nylon yarn, and the purple is yarn that I dyed myself, which I think I have shown you guys in previous weeks. It's again still not showing up quite right. It's showing up very gray, and I don't know why it's doing that, but it is purple. It's like a dusty sort of purple. So that's what that looks like. And then the white is, or the cream is just like that yarn, but like not dyed. So it's, both of them are the BFL nylon, and yeah, I'm liking it. I'm enjoying knitting with yarn that I've dyed myself. And I'm really enjoying this purple yarn because it's just very subtly tonal, and I'm really liking it. So yeah, that's very fun. And then I actually have a second work in progress that I can show, but it kind of goes along with some of the yarn dyeing. So I will really quick talk about what's coming up next, then I'll show that other work in progress. So what's coming up next, I think the next pattern that I'm going to do is going to be the Water for the Elephants socks, just because I have the yarn dyed for that. So I know I've shown these before, but this is the yarn that I'm going to be using for that. Again, this is that BFL nylon blend, and this one is a red that I dyed, and then this one is sort of a buttery yellow kind of one, and I don't think it's showing up quite as nice as it is in real life. It's showing up a little washed out, but it is, like, in the right light, it's definitely yellow, but it's a very tonal sort of yellow, so I really like it. I think they will look very nice together, obviously very high contrast, and they will, I think, really work well for that pattern. So that's the next one I have planned. Hopefully I'll get to that by the middle of the month. I guess we'll see. But yeah, that's that. And then speaking of yarn that I dyed myself, let's talk about some other yarn that I have dyed myself. I've dyed 2 skeins this weekend. And even though I did not intend for this to be the case, they actually came out looking pretty much the same color. But this was the first one, and this one is a very, very bright pink. It's actually picking up about true to color on the screen, at least on my screen as I'm watching it. But yeah, this was like a mix of a couple different, I think every different pink Kool-Aid color I could find. This was one of them went into here. And so yeah, this is very, very pink, and I'm planning on using this for the, I forget exactly what it's called. It's like the Gimme Coffee socks or something. Of course, I'll link the pattern. I have the pattern saved in my Ravelry library. I just don't have it up right now. But this and then a brown, I think, are going to be, like, instead of the orange that's in the sample socks that she's knit, I'm going to use this very bright pink. And I'm still working on trying to figure out how to get brown. I currently have a mix of Kool-Aid in the fridge that I think is a green, an orange, and a red. That is kind of like a rusty red color. And I'm hoping if I just add purple to that, if I add a packet of grape, that will give me brown. But the store has been out of grape Kool-Aid all weekend. So I guess I'll have to wait until next week sometime to pick some up and try that. But yeah, this is one skein that I dyed. And this is, of course, sock weight yarn. And then the other skein that I dyed is, oh, this is very hard to show you guys, is, I think I had mentioned that I picked up a skein of the Lion Brand Fisherman's Wool. And, oh my gosh, why is my computer's making noises at me. I picked up a skein of the Lion Brand Fisherman's Wool in like the natural cream color, and I was just going to play around with it a little bit. So what I had done with it was I took it and I wound it into little balls about the size of my fist. And so I think I got maybe like 6 of those little balls out of it. And then my plan was to then dye that dry. And I was hoping I would get little tiny gradients. Like I was hoping that it would absorb really well into the outside and then not quite make it all the way to the inside. So that I would kind of get these like gradient stripes. Like that was my hope. It didn't quite work out like that. It basically went all the way through. But it did give me a tonal effect. So then I rewound the yarn into kind of an oblong ball cake thing because I wanted it to be center pull. And I knew if I tried to wind it into a ball, it was just going to be giant because this is 200 grams of yarn, so a lot of yarn. But this is kind of what it came out looking like. I think I might have accidentally, I can't really tell. I don't knit with like non-superwash wool very much, but I think I might have accidentally felted the yarn itself just a little bit because I was trying to work with it maybe when it was wet. I don't know. It's hard to tell. I mean, it seems okay, but like if you look at like this strand here, I don't know if it's going to focus on that. Like it just looks a little not quite like it should. Oh, it's not going to focus. But I don't know, whatever. I figure it's knitting up fine, so I don't really care. We'll see. So I've been knitting with it because what I wanted to do with this was just make a big, huge sort of like triangle shawl. Just like a big, fluffy garter stitch triangle shawl. And I can't really link to a pattern. I suppose maybe I can find a pattern that you could follow for this, but I mean, basically, if you know how to make a triangle shawl, that's all I'm doing. I'm just knitting every row, so it's garter stitch. But this is what it looks like, and I'm going to try and not hit the microphone. This is what it's knitting up like. So it's really fun. I'm really, really enjoying it because it's just sort of brainless, and with the kind of past couple of days I've been needing something sort of brainless, so that's been really fun. And it's nice to just kind of pick up and work on, you know, 1 row or 2 rows at a time, especially as it's going to get bigger. But my plan is to just use all of this yarn for it, so my guess is it'll be really, really big, but that's okay. And to compare, so this is the 2, and you can see that they came out pretty much the same color, even though this one I had been trying to dye red. Like I think I used like 3 packets of red and 1 packet of pink, so I did not mean for it to come out pink, but it did. But that's okay. Like I didn't really have any expectations for it. I mean, I knew what I wanted to have happen, but the fact that that's not what happened is not really that big of a deal. And I've just been storing it in this plastic bag that I cut, oh gosh, oh no, oh, yarn everywhere. Oh. I cut the corner off of the bag so that the yarn can come out, but that way it just kind of keeps it contained, because I don't really have a project bag big enough for this, so I just wanted to make sure this stayed contained and didn't get like unrolled everywhere. So yeah, that's my works in progress and the yarn that I've dyed. So I guess the next thing on the agenda is to talk about the knit along. So like I said, the previous knit along has ended. It ended September 1st, the morning of the 1st, and I have not yet picked a winner, but let me see if I can figure out how many total finished objects we had. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. 16 total finished objects. I know that was really great podcasting. We had 16 total finished objects, so I will go ahead and right now get a random number. I use random.org, by the way, for my random number generating. So let's see. I have my random number, and let's see which one that corresponds to. 1, 2, 3. So the winner is Pernille OH, which I'm guessing stands for Ohio. Pernille, I will be sending you a message as soon as I finish recording, so you will probably see it before you actually see this episode. But congratulations, you won! And her socks are super cool looking. They were these sort of, I think sort of like a center out sort of sock. Really cool looking. Highly recommend checking them out. They are entry number or post number 7 in the finished object thread. But congrats. I will get your prize sent out soon, once I get your address and everything, and once I get my act together and make it to the post office. So yeah, that was the last knit along. And then for the current knit along, so I talked about the rules a little bit last week, but I'll rehash them here. Other than the standard sort of rules, which are the, adult size, long enough leg, blah, 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 all that. The different sort of things that are, in play for this knit along is you can do Christmas stockings if you, for some reason, want to be knitting Christmas stockings a little bit early, but you do need to make a pair of them. But you can definitely do that if you prefer. And so there's different levels also of kind of what is defining color work. So the very base definition I'm using for defining color work is that it is some sort of design composed of 2 or more different colors of yarn. So it can be stranded color work. That's like top level stranded color work. If you are not quite up there yet, one step down would be something like, I've seen some different patterns. The pattern I recommend is like the broken seed stitch sock. Someone also recommended a really good pattern, which I will of course link in the chatter thread. Rules, I always link like the patterns that I'm planning on using and then some other suggestions for patterns, so I will link it in there. But they had one that was really cool, that was like this really beautiful design, but it's just all made by doing slipped stitches. Oh, I just heard something, sorry. But those are 2 options where, you can do color work and you can do it, it's like single row stripes that you're doing, which produce a really cool design, but like you don't have to be dealing with 2 different strands of yarn at the same time. So that's sort of like mid-level color work, is sort of patterns like that. And then if you are way at the basic, what you can do instead is you can do a striped sock where you do the stripes yourself. So, you're not using a self-striping yarn or anything. You are, knitting however many rows in color 1, cutting the yarn, attaching color 2, knitting however many rows in that color, cutting the yarn, attaching color 3, etc., etc. So that is sort of like the basic level, but I figure anyone can do that as long as you can weave in ends and change yarn colors. Like anyone should be able to do that. So that way, anyone can play, but obviously pick the level that's going to challenge you and broaden your knitting abilities. But don't get yourself in over your head, because that is fun for nobody. So kind of make sure that you're pushing yourself, but don't push yourself too far, because then you'll just wind up hating the project. But yeah, those are kind of the different things that are going on. And like I said, I will link to the thread for the thread with the rules in it, so you can go there and actually read them and I'm sure that they will be much better phrased there. And because I won't be distracted by people outside yelling, being annoying, which is what was happening. So yeah, that is the rules for the current knit along. And I just realized I have no question of the week this week. I'm trying to think if I want to come up with one really quick or if I won't. I don't think I will because I just don't have one, and I just completely forgot it in my notes. I was like, oh, there is no question of the week. So no question of the week this week. So I guess that will be it for the knitting sort of things. So if that's all you were here for, then I guess it was another short week this week. But otherwise, I will, talk a little bit about the past week or so in my life and why it's been so busy and not great. So yeah, if you want to hang around for that, do so. Otherwise, thanks very much for hanging around, and I'll see you next week. So I guess this will be a shorter episode this week because I just spent 15 minutes recording the chit chat section, and then QuickTime, which is what I use to record, decided it didn't want to be able to save things, and no matter what I did, I couldn't get it to save. So I shut down my computer and tried to get it back up, and now it's still being kind of weird. So we'll see if it even saves. If you're seeing this, I guess it's saved, but otherwise, I don't know. But I'm not going to redo all the chit chat stuff because as much as it doesn't weird me out to sit and talk to no one, telling the same story twice to the camera is a little weird. So basically what I talked about was had a really busy week at work, went to my first class. I don't like the class, but whatever, I'm not paying for it. The weather this weekend was pretty cool because of the hurricane moving up the coast, and Wesley's car got hit. Luckily, we didn't get hit while in it. It was overnight, but we park on the street, the very busy street that you hear in the background of all my videos, and his car got hit, and that was just a whole disaster. And that was on Saturday morning, and we've been sort of just dealing with it the whole weekend. So thank goodness we had today off of work and school because it helped us to recover some of the weekend that we lost. But yeah, it'll be okay. This is what car insurance is for. But that's gonna be it. I am tired and hungry, and I need to go eat a snack so I can deal with the crushing disappointment of technology. So thanks very much for hanging out with me, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.